So first off, we're gonna grab a 5mm Allen key or 5mm bit with a driver and remove all these bolts that you see in the video from the side panels, also the front grille. It's all 4 bolts, top and bottom on both sides. Take out the bolts and you can save them for later. Now we're going to continue on the right side, remove the top bolt and then the bottom too, like so. Alright, here comes the part where you're going to have to remove the 2 through bolts, 14mm wrench or spanner, and 14mm ratchet and hex socket. Loosen the nuts on the top and bottom, spin them off, and when you pull the through bolts out, be careful. The aluminum spacers are going to fall out. Keep those spacers. They're going to have to be put back in their places when you insert the supplied through bolt. So that's that for now. The supplied tools and hardware. So we're going to have here 2 of these M10 by 180mm long through bolts. And the nuts are the OEM nuts, so you will put those back. And then we're going to have 36mm tall spacers, 2 of them, and 2 12mm tall spacers as well. Okay, and so the next part is the 15mm wrench or spanner, and a ratchet extension, and a 14mm hex socket. Then we have 2 M6 by 50mm Allen bolts. And then we have this driver with a 5mm Allen bit. Next we have the 4 M8 by 25mm hex head bolts plus washers plus nylock nuts. Okay, and then we have 10mm wrench or spanner and a 13mm wrench or spanner. Okay, next, get the components ready for installation. We have the right side and left side brackets, the 2 large spacers, the 4 OEM spacers, and the 2 12mm spacers. That's going to go on the outer left side. And we have the OEM flange nuts and the 2 through bolts. This part is finicky. You're going to have to stretch or pull on the plastic part, panel, and fish this in. So don't mess up your exhaust header. Be careful. Slide this bracket in. And then you grab the spacer, the 32mm, put it in between the bracket and the frame tab. And then press the engine through bolt through. And then get the bottom through bolt, put on the spacer, and then push it through or push it in as far as you can. Do make sure to put the OEM spacer back in between the engine and the engine frame tab, right? Both the top and the bottom. And then the other OEM spacer back on the other side between the engine and the frame tab. Press it in or press it through. And then the same on the top. You have the spacer in between the tab. There you go. And then the third spacer is the OEM, the second OEM. In total is the third. Those are through. The top popped through. Now the bottom, you might need to, tap on it or hit on it. It's going to come through. And then the 12mm spacers on the end, both top and bottom. Now the left side bracket, this is much easier because there's no exhaust header on this side. Place it on, grab the washers, put on the washers, top, washer, and then the OEM flange nut. Spin it on, same process on the bottom, washer, and then the OEM flange nut. You can leave it loose or you can tighten it just a bit. Just make sure that it's not too tight. You will have to be able to move it or rattle this bracket, so don't pull it too tight. Okay, that's for the last step. Now you can grab the left side crash bar, place it on, and then grab the M6x50 millimeter long Allen bolt. Make sure to apply some medium strength locking fluid. Leave this bolt loose until the end. And then at the bottom, the M6x25 millimeter long bolt plus washer plus nylock nut. Press the bolt through, and on the back side you put on the washer and then spin on the nylock nut. It's finicky, take your time, no rush. The other side, right side, same steps, same procedure. Put the bolt in, apply some blue Loctite. The tool that we're using here is a 5mm bit, Allen bit, or Allen socket, or Allen key. And then just a couple of turns and leave this bolt loose. M6x25mm long bolt, plus washer, plus nylock nut, same process. Washer on the back side, nylock nut on the back side, spin it on, take your time, leave it loose. And then we'll grab the cross brace, make sure to pay attention to the orientation. Put it in between the brackets. You might need to pull the brackets apart. You might need some force. Pull them apart, line up the mounting holes, and this is why it's important to leave the brackets loose and all the other components, because that's what's going to help you line up the mounting holes. And then you grab the M6x25mm long bolts plus washers plus nylock nuts. Push the bolts through and then place on the washer on the back side, and then spin on the nylock nut. Of course, same on both ends. And then you can start tightening these 10mm and 13mm wrench or spanners. And of course, you can then carry on and tighten all the bolts and nuts gradually. Okay, and then once it's done, place the plastic parts back on. If you are going to install our skid plate, then please watch the next video, because some plastic parts will not have to be reinstalled. But if it's just the crash bars, then you're pretty much done. Do make sure to check all the bolts and nuts once again after a test ride of 100 kilometers, 150 kilometers, or 80 miles to 120 miles, more or less. So check all those bolts and nuts. If you have any questions, please contact us, info@beckmotortech.com, or call 877-931-3636. Thank you for watching.